Brenda Thompson will talk about privatization, the various fronts of privatization we're facing, and the elements of resistance.
I'm going to jump right into what does transit privatization look like in Toronto. And I'll just start first by saying that most of the transit P3s in Canada are built using a design, build, finance, operate, and maintain model. And a lot of our politicians like to claim this is not privatization because the public still owns the asset. However, a private multinational consortium ends up being in charge of the construction, the architecture, the engineering, and also they're responsible for getting financing from a private bank. And they also usually operate and maintain the line after it's built for a profit. So many people that I talk to refer to it as privatization by stealth. The provincial projects like the $5 billion Eglinton Crosstown LRT and the Finch and Shepherd LRTs will use this model, except that TTC workers will operate the line for 10 years. The maintenance work, which is really important that it be done by a skilled unionized workforce, will be going to a multinational consortium. So they will control that part. And that will be a 30-year contract. So once that contract is signed, we're locked in. We don't have really much option in terms of control over the future of that transit line. There is also the Toronto-York-Spadina subway extension, which started out as a public project. However, there was a lot of crying out and complaining about cost overruns and delays, and these were blamed on TTC management, and they were promptly fired. And then a $150 million contract was put in place, and Bechtel, another huge multinational construction company, got the contract to manage the completion of this subway extension. And even, you know, all this talk about cost overruns, and here is Bechtel, a US multinational known for incurring billions of dollars in cost overruns over the Boston Big Dig. But heck, we just went ahead and replaced our own staff. The Scarborough subway extension will probably be designed, built, and financed privately, which will eliminate TTC expansion stuff. But the city is reluctant to contract out operations and maintenance to the private partners, so these jobs will likely go to TTC workers. So I guess the next question is, what are the challenges, and what have the challenges been in fighting privatization of the TTC? I think privatization has basically been eclipsed by other transit issues in Toronto. Back in 2010, the municipal election, ATU Local 113, our local transit workers union, launched and funded a Keep the TTC public campaign to stop privatization. And that coalition included QP Ontario, which has done some very good work and analysis on privatization, Social Planning Toronto, TTCriders, Toronto Environmental Alliance, Good Jobs for All Coalition, and the Labour Council. But when Council was poised to vote on a master agreement with Metrolinx, our regional transit authority, to build the Eglinton Crosstown using a public-private partnership, there was no opposition from this coalition. If there was any opposition, it wasn't out in the public arena. We didn't hear about it. Instead, organizations including Good Jobs for All and the Labour Council joined with the Carpenters Union to lobby Metrolinx for a community benefits agreement. And this would facilitate an apprenticeship program to create jobs for youth in Weston Mount Dennis, an area that the Eglinton Crosstown would serve. But they did nothing to ensure that TTC workers would maintain the system once it was built. So then looking at TTCriders as an organization, they have a very clear position against privatization. And members have deputed at council meetings and launched an online petition against the Eglinton Crosstown P3. But the main issue of TTC riders, as Camilla mentioned, is lowering fares and getting more funding for operations. And so we just don't seem to have the time to devote to privatization. And then ATU Local 113 has gradually kind of, I think, not pulled away, but it's certainly not a burning issue for them. Their latest report, Toronto Transit's Future, contained about 67 recommendations on improving service and funding operations, with only short reference to their campaign against privatization on the last page of the report. So I think one of the challenges has definitely been there's not enough grassroots organizing by local unions that are going to be affected by these decisions. ATU Local 113 and QP Local 2 are key to mobilizing the public and stopping privatization. And I think transit riders are eager to engage in conversations about their experience taking the TTC. And so there's a big opportunity for them to reach out to these riders. And even Herman Rosenfeld has done workshops teaching bus drivers in ATU locals in Regina and Kitchener how to talk to riders about transit issues. And ATU has about 10,000 members who could all be engaging in this kind of grassroots organization and mobilization. And I'm certain that TTC riders and the Free Transit Toronto groups would readily get involved with that sort of thing. We've already done bus canvasses. We're already really used to talking to people on the bus. We're just kind of hoping that the unions will get more involved in this sort of thing. And then also I think there's different interests that are sort of fragmented within this issue. Public capacity to deliver and finance new lines goes hand in hand with operations and maintenance jobs. So, so far the fight against privatization by unions and NGOs has focused on the preservation and expansion of a skilled unionized workforce and also the public interest, because the public is ultimately on the hook for any of the problems that we're going to face with privatization, both financially and in terms of an open and transparent system that you can actually find out what's going on. That's going to be shut down, and it's going to be corporate confidentiality all the way. However, building public transit also requires in-house capacity to oversee and finance these projects publicly, and the expertise of local architectural and engineering firms, as opposed to foreign multinationals that just want to sort of funnel profits into offshore tax havens. So I think these issues also need to be addressed if we're going to avoid a future where privatization is our only option, because we no longer have the in-house capacity to build things publicly. And that's about it.